Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So we are on chapter 10 and we'll be doing verse 10 today. 10:10. So we did verse 9 last time, and the English translation of it was, with their minds wholly resting in me, with their senses absorbed in me. So mat chitta mat pranaha. Enlightening each other and ever speaking of me. They are satisfied and delighted. Basically talking about satsang. And so now we go to the next verse. Verse 10. So what happens when people are doing all those things? When Bhagavan says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mapupayanti te. Tesham, to them. So these people, mat chitta, mat prana, or people who are doing satsang, those people. Satata yuktanam, ever steadfast. Bhajatam, of the worshipping. So we will go more deep into bhajan. We have done that before also, but we'll go further. Priti purvakam. Everybody knows the word priti, love, with love. Dadami, dena, I give. Buddhi yogam, and this word has come before also. Yoga, discrimination, understanding, deeper understanding. Tam, that, yena, by which, mam, me, to me, upayanti, come, te, is they come to me. So let's see in more detail what he's saying. So these people, like we said, this is relating to the previous verse. The people whose minds are absorbed in me, basically people who are tuned to me, but more detail is mat chitta, mat prana, satata yuktanam, all these words, that their physical body is tuned by doing seva maybe. So mind, body, intellect, everything is engaged in higher self. So, and then mind is tuned with them with love and devotion. So all the emotions are also directed towards the higher. And their intellect is tuned to me also. Why? How? By thinking and understanding, contemplating my nature. So that's what is called satata yuktanam. So it involves all three. Because here we have to go more deeper into each word there, what it means. Krishna Bhagavan didn't have much time to go at war zone, so he's giving in short, and we have to go deeper meaning. So, how do I understand this? I have to think about it and constantly what I learn, who God is and all that, like all Bhagavan is saying in all these chapters. And as I think deeply, contemplate, that leads to that deeper and deeper understanding. And that's what he's talking about. And then this deeper understanding make me tune to God. So this is how we have to understand this. And tuning means what? Connecting to God. And connecting to God means connecting to my own self, higher self. So we cannot separate that God is somewhere else, because Nikhilananji always reminds us about that. It's like God is within you also, because Atman is there. And so because he's just reminding that Bhagavan is not somebody sitting up there or anything, but connecting to my own higher self, my own being. And he was just kind of made a very interesting point, and I have heard the other saints and sages say also that we really don't experience life. Life meaning that life principle within us, the existence, we don't experience that intensely. Our attention goes into the world, and कभी-कभी बोलते हैं कि पूरा जिंदगी निकल जाती है without experiencing life. I don't know if you have heard of that. जो हमारा core being है वही हम connect नहीं होते उससे, and so because we are constantly in some other world, okay? So, and that existence itself is not recognized by us. And why he's saying that? Because we have heard from the Shastras, that we are Sat Chit Anand. Huh? So that's what we should strive to experience, but I don't recognize that, and I, keep doing other things. So what do we have to do? He said we have to use this technique shown by Bhagavat Geeta or, Upanishads and all that. That's what I need to follow to experience that Satchitananda in myself. And what happens with that? It helps us to transcend our body, mind, and thinking. And then we can experience, because while we are in it, we won't be able to experience. So we have to follow the path. Because in all the Gita and Upanishad, very common theme is that it talks about Brahma Vidya and then Yoga Shastra. Yoga Shastra is the path. Path is also shown. So we cannot just know the goal, we need to know the path also. So Bhagavan is saying that one who is constantly tuned to me, this word, Tesham Satata Yuktanam, and then they worship Bhajatam. So he's saying Bhajatam over here, we have seen, ye nahi ki baith ke koi bhajan hi kar raha. I'm not, saying anything against the bhajan. If koi bhav se bhajan kare, bahut achhi baat hai. So, but worship here means Chintanam. That's what, Nikhilanandji was saying. Thinking about God, contemplating on God. And that is the ultimate worship, according to him, when we are doing that. Usko bhajatam bola hai bola. So then he was just saying that how in chapter 9, Bhagwan said that if you want to worship, to begin with, you can give me even pushpam patram phalam toyam, you can give me a flower and all. You start like that, offering something and all, and create that feeling in our mind. But ultimately, real worship is tuning to God, to feel his presence everywhere. And this chapter is definitely going to take us in that direction, how to feel his presence everywhere. And then how that is done, we have heard it so many times, but it's always good to repeat it by contemplating, thinking, reflecting upon it. And then he used the word bhajatam priti purvakam, with sneha purvakam, with love, and then when we analyze that, Bhagwan talks about love in Bhagavad Gita, love is not, asking for something. In true love, you want to please the other person. You want to do it for the sake of the other person, not for yourself. So that's what it is. Not for sake of getting anything in return. Not with some ulterior motive, or worldly things and things like that. Not like that, But the intense love for the divine alone. Because the more we understand who God is, that's what is going to develop, And he was just saying that enlightenment for the enlightenment's sake only, not for anything else. And he was just saying that there are different kinds of people in the world. A group of people are there constantly when they pray to God. We know that, and we were doing at one time probably the same thing. Mujhe ye de do, mujhe wo de do. Like I remember when we were in high school, Bhagwan mujhe pass kar dena. और some good student इधर मुझे फर्स्ट क्लास चाहिए ये वो इंटेंट बाकी पूरे साल पढ़ा भगवान को याद नहीं किया होगा परीक्षा के टाइम पे बहुत सब लोग पूरी लंबी लाइन लगती थी हनुमान जी के टेम्पल में नारियल फोड़ने के लिए all the young people are running to the temple. So anyway, because for at that time, if you think about, if you analyze it now, that something is more important to you than God himself. Now that we are studying what real love for God is. So what here Priti Purvak means a complete devotion, dedication and reverence for God. There is no other agenda in you. And then Bhagwan has used this word few times. It's going to come now. Ananya Bhakti. Ananya means no other. All that is developed with all these kind of contemplation. So such dedicated thinkers and seekers with this Ananya Bhakti and Priti Purvakam, so when they are involved in all this, then Bhagwan says, I give them that knowledge. Or actually, the way Nikhilanandji explained it very nice, the knowledge happens to them. जैसे हमने बोला कि नींद की तैयारी करो, you can't force the need to come. You just do the preparation and Nidra Devi अपने आप ही bless करती है. Same way the knowledge happens to them. So and he said that knowledge comes as a blessing of that supreme divinity. And we have discussed it many times. And then he gave that example in the previous verse, when we were discussing the previous verse, that how when you rub the two woods constantly, and you don't know when it will start, but the fire suddenly starts, right? So the same way he's saying that the people who are, Priti Purvakam, doing all these things, and then just like fire happens, like that, the knowledge will happen. And he was just reminding one thing, that, thinking itself is not a knowledge. Okay? But thinking in the right direction and creating that atmosphere in our antakaran, and then the knowledge will happen. And so Bhagavan uses the word dadami buddhi yogam. So he's saying that I give them knowledge of myself. And then when we do Swamiji's commentary, he even called it a comprehension power. Because अगर मैं कोई चीज़ ऐसे ही पढ़ लूँ और मुझे कुछ समझ में नहीं आए तो क्या फ़ायदा, right? I have to deeply understand the import, correct import. नहीं तो लोग कुछ उल्टा सीधा सीख, religion के नाम पे कितने सब atrocity करते हैं. You can gain your own interpretation, which will be all wrong. So he gives the right interpretation. That's another meaning also. So Nikhilananji was just explaining that knowledge is the essence, and that state of enlightenment comes as a blessing, as a grace of God. So when he says dadami buddhi yogam ta, and then that person comes to me, he's talking about that final experience also. So you can take it both ways, that it culminates into that final experience, as a grace of God. And then he was just saying that what happens is when we are contemplating constantly on Bhagavan and, kind of thinking about it, understanding it deeply, that's the time we will learn to transcend our body, mind, and intellect and ego. All these things are dropped. And he's saying that when everything is dropped, then you are a helpless creature. बोलते हैं ना कि एकदम full surrender जो होता है. And मेरे को जब भी मुझे surrender की बात आती है, I always think of Draupadi. That how Draupadi surrendered to Bhagwan. She said कि बस तुम ही मेरा सहारा. और सारे धुरंधर लोग आसपास बैठे थे. दुनिया ने किसी ने help नहीं किया. So the same way, you drop everything and you just helpless over there. And in that state, Bhagwan said, I will give you that knowledge. I will give you that full surrender. So whichever way you want to approach it, this is what the final thing is. And then he was just saying that, and by that buddhi, Bhagavan says, I'll give you the buddhi yoga. So another way of looking at it is that through that buddhi yoga, you will recognize me, become one with me. That oneness, the union will happen. And that is the path. So he was just bringing everything together, what we have learned, the karma yoga, bhakti yoga, slowly that it reaches to that state of deeply contemplating and meditating, and then it happens. And he said that we have many examples in this world, all the great saints, whoever, Ramana Maharishi, Nisargadatta Maharaj, our Guru Dev, Tapovan Maharaj, Vivekanand Ji, Ramakrishna Paramahans, so many of them, So we have examples also. And all of these people, they created that environment within them, and their knowledge just dawned on them. So that's how he was explaining, And he was just saying that here, when he said knowledge, don't think of it as a term of thoughts. It's experience. That's the most important thing, because how many, intellectually you can have so many thoughts, but jab tak wo apna experience nahi banta hai na, we don't accept that fully. So he's talking about the experience part of it. Experience of the self happens. Recognizing yourself, or you can say Bhagwan, all of these things come together. And then he was just saying that later on in the chapter, Bhagwan will tell us that how the self only experiences itself. So that's another way of looking at it. It's kind of complicated to think, but it's a very interesting sentence, the self experience itself. There is no medium over there in between, no media in between, That is, this is a different state that we are talking about, state of enlightenment. We may not understand it, but through these words, we can try to, kind of imagine it. And then he will, in the next verse, he's going to talk about that after somebody gets this kind of knowledge, then what will happen and all that. So that we will see next time. Any question? Any comment? Anybody wants to add anything?
Ji, when this happens, do those people then realize that this is what's happened?
Yes, I'm sure, but it's like one of those things that once you realize, nobody can express it in the words, but they try anyway. Like all these things that we have in our Gita and Upanishads and all that, it describes that state. And when we do that three Upanishad, when we come to the end, you will see that once he got the knowledge, he will say like your mouth remain open and you don't know. So different people, let's put it this way, they have the same experience of oneness, but how they will express it to the world may be all different, because depending on their own mind. So that's what it is. It's something like, even in the world, if suppose I experience something and you have not, and I'm trying to explain it to you, I'll be struggling. Suppose a particular fruit. So just a hypothetical example. Suppose, I have never eaten mango, but you have. And now you come and tell me, there is this fruit which is very sweet and it's so good that it just melts in your mouth. Yeah, wo hai. And then you give 2-3 other fruits. But you cannot still explain to me what mango is until I eat it. Oh, now I know once I eat it. So that's how it is, this state,
Thank you.
So and then somebody was saying that how do you recognize that this person is self-realized or not? Because people question. कोई बोलता है फलाना is self-realized, बोलते नहीं वो नहीं है, वो है. Only a self-realized person will know other one. You won't even know. Like एक डॉक्टर दूसरे डॉक्टर को समझ सकता है, हम लोग उसको एनालाइज नहीं कर सकते. सो दैट्स व्हाट इट इज. सो हम लोग को क्या है कि वो श्रद्धा से सुनो और करते जाओ. एक दिन हम लोग का भी आएगा. That's how we have to kind of do it. Any other question, comment? Okay, who would like to read today? Anilji, you want to read?
To them, ever steadfast, worshipping me with love, I give the yoga, Buddhi Yoga, by which they come to me. To those alone who have become steadfast in their contemplation of the self at all the levels of their personality, will be given the necessary strength and ability to vault over the last ranges of their ignorance and thereby reach them right into the temple of truth. Even when their awareness slips through their sense organs and when they come to live among the noisy brood of their own emotions and feelings, or when they identify with the ever-surging and stormy disturbances in their own intellects, they are considered as steadfast only if they can constantly remember the principle of truth during all these activities.
So there are a lot packed in this paragraph. He's talking about the word satata yuktanam, ever steadfast. So he was, and then we have that, you may have forgotten now, whoever it did, that chapter 2, Sthita Pragna Lakshana, the characteristic of man of steady wisdom. So it's like once you know that knowledge, that's not enough. You have to become steadfast in it. Never forget that knowledge. So that's what exactly he's saying, that they are considered steadfast only if they constantly remember the principle of truth. And he was just reminding us that as long as a person is in body, mind, and intellect equipment, you are going to get bombarded by all these bodily, maybe even you can call it needs or afflictions or something, or emotions and feelings. And it's not like the self-realized person doesn't feel any emotion. It's not like that. They also do, and उनको भी कभी क्रोध गुस्सा भी आता, कुछ भी होता होगा, मगर they never forget that knowledge that who God is, and they very quickly get established in it fast. That's the whole trick. So this is just a few things that we have to learn. So for us, that's what the trick is, that we know, but whenever we are transcending this in this world, we have to keep that in mind somewhere back of our mind. Never forget that, and that's what helps us to be steadfast. Yeah.
So, excuse me. So, he gives the knowledge to be, and they establish and they get a glimpse of it. Is that what you are saying?
See, when in this verse, you can take it both ways. They are talking about the highest experience, and you and somewhere, comprehending power also, because for us, we have not, we don't know when that highest state will come. So for us, even to get more connected to it, the more understanding with it, going deeper in it, maybe I was remembering just once or twice a day, now I'm remembering 5 times, even that is better for us. See what I'm saying? So it depends on where you are. If somebody is very close to getting self-realized, so for them, he can say that, okay, Bhagwan is going to give you the final experience. If we are not even close, even if we understand a little more, even if we understand better, if we are remembering, I'm not getting so disturbed by my surroundings anymore, that's an indication that I'm understanding this knowledge more and more. Otherwise, okay, I know about Bhagavat Geeta, but hey, am I applying it or not? So that application can be, Buddhi Yoga too. You can look at it that way.
So, when he talks about Buddhi Yoga, and then we talk about, that the mind can wander off. For that same person, the mind can wander off, but that the Lord still keeps on giving that, or because he's established once, that he continues to remember and himself.
So I think that, to me, you can take it both ways. The person who is like a sthita prajna, even if his mind wanders off, he knows it very clearly, it's my mind wandering off, and I am not that mind. He has such a clarity about it. And people like us, okay, my mind wanders off, but if I come back to it, I can say, okay, Bhagwan is given me some Buddhi Yoga, because at least I'm coming back sooner than later now, Okay. So I think that you can take it both ways, because it depends on where we are in our journey. Because that's why Gita verses, it has a wider application. Bhagwan is talking to Arjuna, who is not there yet, but he has all the qualifications. Yeah. So we have to create that qualification in us, and Bhagwan will guide us and help us. And this is like literally a promise. Hey, you keep doing your job, I'm going to give you what you need.
I just want one clarification here.
Yes.
So, like, mind controls all our senses, but it seems like it doesn't control our buddhi.
No, the way in Bhagavad Gita, there is a hierarchy is there. You have mind and senses. Body, sorry, what am I saying? Body and senses. So they are at one group. And then comes mind. Mind is higher than senses, because this, mind has a more power. And then above the mind ko 2 bhag mein divide kiya hai. Mana, buddhi. So the lower mind and the higher mind. Higher mind has more power, but it has to be pure. Buddhi has to be pure. Agar buddhi mein khot hoega na, then you will start believing in some wrong ideas. So whole idea is that कि जो भगवान ने हमको comprehending power, intellectual power, दिया है, उसको तुम purify करो, through karma yoga and all that, and then the knowledge, you will be able to hold that knowledge better. So that's the whole process. And then Bhagwan says, Atma is higher than all of these. So जो आत्मा में establish हो गया ना, he is like, he got it made, because Atma is the highest. So that's the hierarchy.
Okay, so it means even your lower mind is wandering around.
Oh, lower mind का तो job ही है, mind wandering around. Because
so
it's
higher mind can still be stable and gain that knowledge.
Yes, so high. That's why Buddhi Yoga को word use किया हुआ है कि तुम अपना जो higher faculty भगवान ने तुमको जो दी है, उसको बढ़ाओ, और मैं उसको बढ़ाऊंगा, ताकि comprehending power and all that, because the lower mind is data collection, it's always going outwards.
Okay.
So that's how it is. Yes.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, sure. Any other question? Okay. Go ahead.
This withdrawal of one's identifications with the perceived world of objects or the world of thoughts or the world of ideas can be successful only when one has discovered in oneself some other all-consuming thought to serve as an efficient substitute, yielding for him a satisfactory quota of absorbing happiness. The absolute bliss self has such a captivating charm to engage the human attention entirely, and therefore, to the extent to which an individual gets attached to the truth, to that extent, that person gains a detachment from the painful embrace of the false. This truth of Vedanta is indicated when Lord Krishna, as though in one and same breath, states, and serving me with affection, invoking me with affectionate devotion.
So जो ये बोला ना भजताम प्रीति पूर्वकम, worship me with love. So there are a couple of things Swamiji is explaining. Firstly, he's saying that connecting to God means connecting to the truth, withdrawing from the false, जिसको विवेक बुद्धि बोलते हैं. Hey, this world is transient and God is the truth and all that. So, but withdrawal cannot happen according to Swamiji until we hold on to the truth. See what I'm saying? You have to, it's like a child. A child he has a toy in his hand or something that you don't want him to have, suppose. He picked up something and you don't want. अगर उसे ऐसे ही छीन लोगे तो वो बहुत जोर से रोएगा. लेकिन उसको कोई और चीज दे दो उसको, which is more interesting to him. Then he will drop it. That's exactly what Bhagwan is saying here, or Swamiji is explaining. And then when we go back to chapter 6, Bhagwan says that you withdraw, but you connect to the higher, withdrawal automatically happens in meditation. So you have to have something to hold on to, and that is indicated by, bhajatam priti purvakam, or wo love, like he will explain in the next couple of paragraphs, that true love is when you identify with the lover. You identify with something, like the mother identifies with the baby. That's why she's ready to sacrifice anything, her sleep, her food, whatever, to take care of the baby, because she thinks baby is her. She sees herself in the baby. Same way, when you start seeing yourself in God, or you have that connection, union, that's when rest of the thing will drop. That's what he's trying to say.
We have already indicated that love means identification. To the extent the ego identifies with the self, to that extent is one a devotee of the truth, and when one becomes steadfast in it, one comes to really invoke bhaja, the divinity that is now dormant in the bosom.
So this is what it is. That, like ek wo koi ek bhajan hai na, I don't know the exact what it is, but uska bhav ye hai ki bhai प्रेम गली अति साखरी उसमें दो न समाए. Two people cannot be in it. So you have to, if you want God, you got to forget about everything else. And that's what the oneness comes. Or here, the way they say it, you have to drop your ego. Ego means separation. I'm separate, God is separate. That's like, or I'm separate, world is separate. That oneness, when we feel, that's when the real bhajan will come. Okay. So there are so many things involved in it, and how, like our teacher used to say that बोलते ना कि कथा सुनो भगवान की. तो क्यों? क्योंकि उस सुनने से प्रेम बढ़ता है. You start loving that. He's saying that, this is like a little joke, but there's some truth to it. जब से एक कुत्ते को भी घर में ले आओ ना, and you spend time with, तो उससे भी प्यार हो जाता है. So that's why that satsang and association is so important, because you are creating that love and devotion, and then that will help us, to move forward. Without that bhakti yoga, you cannot do anything.
To those individuals who are thus steadily contemplating upon the self in an atmosphere of love, delight, and contentment, identifying themselves with the infinite, to them the Lord promises, I give that Buddhi Yoga by which they come unto me.
So this is what it is. That the one, and another way you can interpret this is, if you are making so much effort, so Bhagwan will say, इतना बेचारा कर रहा है, इतनी बेचारी कर रही है, उसको मैं देता हूँ अभी. You see, somebody trying very hard, you want to reward them. It's a simple way of saying it. But that's what he's saying, that when you are steadily contemplating, upon the self, in the atmosphere of love, delight, and contentment, identifying with the infinite. That's how it is, So Bhagwan says, Bhagwan ne promise kiya hai yahan pe. There are few promises are great by Bhagwan. I will give you the Buddhi Yoga, the final experience, or you can say comprehension power to get more deeper, depending on where we are.
Umaji, is he also saying that knowledge is already dormant in you?
Yes, 100%.
I'll give you the Buddhi Yoga to wake it up.
Yes, absolutely. I think you said it very nicely, because it's बोलते हैं ना कि बोलते गुरु भी अपने अंदर ही है. जो बाहर का गुरु होता है वो अंदर के गुरु को जगा रहा है. So that's absolutely.
अभी मैं संस्कृत की क्लास में मन की पावर पे एक मंत्र कर रहे हैं. उसमें क्या कहता है, वो वेद का मंत्र है कि चारों वेदों का ज्ञान तुम्हारे मन में छिपा हुआ है.
Amazing, yes.
मन holds that knowledge.
Yes.
तुम्हें बस उसको स्टेबल बनाकर और उस बुद्धि तक पहुंचना है, उसको स्टेबल बनाना है. So that more deeper you go, you can access to all that knowledge.
Yep, exactly what Krishna Bhagwan is saying. Absolutely.
और इस मंत्र में भी बड़ा हिडन वो लिखा हुआ है कि भाई तुम कंटेंट रहना शुरू कर देते हो. जब तुम कंटिन्यूअसली कंटेम्पलेट करते हो तो इसका मतलब तुम स्थिर बुद्धि बन गए हो.
Yep.
और स्थिर बुद्धि स्थिर प्रज्ञा बन जाते हो, तो वो उसका प्रॉमिस है कि he will give you, he will come to you, he will give you all the knowledge.
See how everything kind of comes to the same. All these Ved mantras are also saying the same thing. Once we study this, we realize. And then the next verse, you will see the Bhagwan says that dwelling in the heart, I destroy the darkness. Miss ignorance ko hata dete hai. So whatever you guys are saying, that is coming in the next mantra now.
This term, Buddhi Yoga, already mentioned earlier, has been described as the right knowledge gained through meditation upon the infinite nature of the self. In the context of its use here, we may say that such a devotee striving diligently, as explained above, will be blessed with an intellectual contact or comprehension of the reality. No doubt, we do not mean that the intellect can comprehend the infinite. We are merely borrowing a familiar phrase from the realm of the finite experiences. So long what we have comprehended intellectually is not contradicted by any other different comprehension, we are capable of experiencing what we have comprehended beyond all traces of doubt. Similarly, the power of an intuitive awareness of the reality comes only to such seekers in whom the maturity of their steady and continued contemplation upon the self has come about.
So he's just kind of explaining more deeply what this word Buddhi Yoga is, which has come before also. Firstly, described as the right knowledge. So ये नहीं कि कुछ और उल्टा सीधा लेके बैठ गए, so it is very important. Through meditation upon the infinite nature of the self, that whatever Krishna Bhagavan has explained himself, about all these things. So that's what it is. So, blessed with an intellectual comprehension. But then, Swamiji is cautioning over here, the final experience, you have to rise above your intellect, because if you just sit in the knowledge and intellect, it's not going to happen. So all he's saying is, when you say the right knowledge or comprehension or Buddhi Yoga, means tumhari buddhi sthir ho gayi hai. Like what Kamala ji was saying in that mantra. And if you go back to chapter 2, where he was explaining the characteristic of a man of steady wisdom, before he started telling about characteristic, he told Arjuna, जिसकी बुद्धि स्थिर हो जाती है ना, उसको वो highest knowledge मिलता है. स्थिर बुद्धि होना मतलब कि तुम कुछ उल्टा सीधा सुनोगे, you won't waver. People otherwise, they start wavering, oh God है या नहीं है, and then somebody will come and give some argument, and then you get swayed into it and all. No, all your doubts have been cleared, by studying, contemplating, discussion, whatever. And your buddhi has become very sthir in it, in the right knowledge. And your vivek buddhi is at the highest. That's when the intuitive awareness of reality, then that's when I think that some of these people who talk about their experience of oneness, like Sadhguru does when he was sitting on the Chamundi Hill, or, in Autobiography of Yogi, he talked about that when he felt that oneness, he had this 360-degree vision or something. So apna experience wo log batate hain, right? How they feel the oneness. I was just listening. Sometimes, you don't even know a person sitting next to you in the bus may be self-realized and you don't know it. Not everybody, you know what I'm saying? Because there is one fellow, his name is Anthony Cheney. He's a French guy, young fellow, and he makes these videos and he interviews these people who have had this mystical experiences, and this fellow was, if you look at him, he looks like one of these guys from Pacific Beach over here with tattoos and things like that. But when he started talking, he talked for an hour, and everything he said was like what Bhagavat Geeta Bhagwan is saying. He had an actual experience of oneness, and he was just trying to explain his own own way that what this oneness is. He was just saying, hey, what you see, that's not what it is. This is not who you are. You are much, much bigger, and the consciousness is all pervading this. I mean, I just couldn't believe it that, if you just meet him, you will never know. But he had a complete experience and complete establishment in it. And that's what he does now, trying to explain to people. So that's what it is. This intuitive awareness of reality comes to, he's saying, those seekers whom the maturity of a steady and continued contemplation upon the self has come about. So what is our job? We have to stay at it. Stay at, keep learning it, keep contemplating, keep going deeper. And one day, intuitively, we will feel the experience. Because that grace will come from God. Like knock at the door of God, and He will open it for you. Like our teacher used to say.
When through the above processes of bringing the mind to quietude, a meditator has succeeded in arresting his mind's agitations, vikshipa, and has consequently lifted the veiling, avarna, from his intellect, he comes to the state of transcendental experience, samadhi, which is the fulfillment of the Buddhi Yoga.
So Swamiji explained in one more way, because, these vikshepa and avarna is like, there are three modes of nature, sattva, rajas, tamas. And vikshep, avarana is happens because of tamas, covering of the buddhi ke upar avarana aa jata hai. I can't even see anything, I don't understand. And vikshep is agitations, it comes from rajas and tamas ka mix hoke, agitation, my mind is agitated. So these two things have to completely eliminate before, you reach that final experience. They call it samadhi. So here he's talking about that final experience of moksha also. And the best example is that reflection of the sun in a bucket of water. When the bucket of water, the water is dirty, that's like avarana. And uska agar bahut zyada dirty ho aur kai jam jaye, ऊपर से कुछ भी नहीं दिखाई देगा, रिफ्लेक्शन दिखाई नहीं देगा, उसको बोलते कवरिंग. और विक्षेप इज व्हेन समझो हवा चल रही है और वो इट्स शेकिंग द वाटर, so the reflection will be like a broken reflection. But suppose the water is absolutely pure, and suppose there is no agitation, then that reflection will be as perfect as the real sun. So that's what he's talking about. That when that happens to this person, that's when he will attain that highest state. And he called it samadhi, so.
Okay. Isn't avarna I was thinking more of an example of the rope and the snake. That, the covering is what you think of it and then you make something out of that, which is in ignorance. You think of it that as a snake. Is that correct?
That's also correct, because your mind is seeing, you are not seeing the rope, and that is like avarana. You can say that too, because these examples, Meenaji, they are not perfect. So you get the gist out of it, what they're trying to say. Both example this can fit. And then the reason that avarana is happening is because you don't see the rope, right? So now you're seeing the snake, and the snake is causing the vikshepa, agitation of mind. Yeah. So, but I was just trying to tell that these things happen because of the rajas and tamas in us, when it is higher rajas and tamas, I don't see what the reality is, so I project something else, Yeah.
And in the last paragraph, when he says, no doubt we do not mean that the intellect can comprehend the infinite. That was very true. We cannot comprehend, we cannot tell, we cannot say anything about it.
Yes.
It only can be indicated, but
not exactly. Indication is there, and but this is how it is, the way our teacher used to explain. Unfortunately, those are the only tools available to us, our mind, body, intellect. But so these tools are also very important. Like somebody was saying that even body is very important. If body is not healthy, you won't be able to sit and contemplate, meditate, do anything. That's why they have that Ashtanga yoga. You start with yam, niyam, asan and all that, and then comes later on dharana, dhyan, samadhi, right? So you start, and then intellect has a very powerful role, because the idea is to keep purifying the intellect, and then one day you cross over. So it's like that high jump that we always talk about. You need the pole to jump over. Without the pole, he cannot jump. So the purified intellect is a very important tool, but then in the end, you have to drop it, because if you just sit in the intellect, it won't happen. That's what they're trying to say. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comment, question, point anybody wants to add? All right, then I'll close Bhagavad Gita here. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhya mokshayishyami ma shuchah. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.